Good afternoon. I am Cecilia Koslapova, Deputy Director of the International Baker Winter Urban Planning University. You can find us on social networks named Winter University or hashtag WinterUni. We organize scientific events in the field of architecture and urban planning. Together with a competence center of large housing estates, right, Maria? Named, thank you, from Berlin. We're conducting a series of online lectures on working without panel building. And I have a small ad in Russian. Дорогие участники, кто будет слушать с переводом, пожалуйста, перейдите по значку глобуса, снизу будет значок глобуса, и выберите язык трансляции русский. В основном канале будет все на английском, включая вопросы. Спасибо. And then, dear participants, we are broadcasting on YouTube. Please text question in English in the chat. After the lecture, I will voice them to the speaker. And I think it's all. And we can start in online lecture series beginning today with a lecture neighborhood improvement in German by Johanna Sievers, landscape architect from Germany. Johanna, I give you the floor.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm very proud that you invited me to speak for you today. This is my first time that my lecture is that I have to hold it in English and that it's being translated in Russian. I feel very honored about this, and I hope you will enjoy my little presentation. Now we get to Bremen Tenever. You can see the part of this town and the big houses. It is partly 22 stories high, already from the highway entering Bremen, because it's in the outskirts of Bremen. And the image of this part of town was really, at those times, very, very bad. The people there used to call it Little Manhattan. Do I hear the Russian translation or not? No. You just translate all the time. Okay, wonderful. Next slide. So I will show you what we made of this area. Next slide. Here is a short introduction about the situation. You see the picture of what it looked before the process. It was development under the motto urbanization through density. That was a philosophy in those times. It was finished in 1976, and it was not completely realized what was, and we were lucky about that. It wasn't implemented completely. Only 2,650 dwellings or flats were built from originally planned 4,500. It was really a large-scale urban development projects on the outskirts of the city, as I said already. And the courtyards were completely surrounded by these high buildings, which made it very difficult to be there because there was almost no sun there. We had a very high proportion of underground parking, which was not accepted by the people. They were afraid of putting their cars in the underground parking, and they preferred to park their cars outside. Of course, we live in a capitalistic country, and so most of the houses were privately owned, and that made it also very complicated to start the renovation process. Next slide. So it was developed what we called an integrated redevelopment concept. First, a land agency was founded, so they were able to buy the houses to make the redevelopment going, because it was not stately owned. They also had to buy from private ownership 1,300 apartments in order to tear them down, because there was a big problem. They were empty. Nobody wanted to live there, and the image was getting worse and worse. And also, it was the aim that remaining apartments, that was 647, should be modernized so they would be attractive again for families to live in this area. Also, what was specific of this part of town is that all the functions of the traffic were separated. So the pedestrians walked not on the streets, but in the higher level, and down were the cars. So everything was separated, which the people did not like at all. Also was an aim to stabilize the center of the district, which was really rotten. Well, you can say the little shops that were there was nobody in there anymore. And it was clear from the beginning that this whole process could only work with an intensive citizen participation. So we tried to reach the people that still lived there and make them participate in the process. Next slide. Here you can see the red areas were all torn down. That included the bridges and also the entrance of the houses were all in the first story. So it was all demolished, and the green parts remained. And you can see, oops. What happened now? We start again.
Please continue. It will work. So in one moment.
Yeah, but I can only. Oh yeah. Okay. Here we are again. And you see the courtyards could now be developed for the use of the people, because the sun would even go there. And you see the different years where the tearing down took place, and step by step we could newly organize the open space areas. Next slide. We had, originally I had little videos where you could have an impression of what life was like in these areas. We have to skip these because it would take too long to show them. So next slide. But the pictures show already, you know, this was the entrance to one of the buildings where the people lived, and it's really not fun to go into an entrance every day like this. It was, so nobody really wanted to live there anymore if they could afford to live somewhere else. Next. We had a lot of vandalism, so you even were not sure to get the mail that you expected. Next one. Here you see again the map, where you can see in red all the buildings that had to be torn down. It was quite a lot, and but I can say that meanwhile, especially in the north, the areas are about to be rebuilt with houses that the people like more, and which have dwellings that are more good for the families. Next one. This was one of the plans that we presented in the competition. We had the view of having, you know, green for everyone, for old people, for young people, for children, for everybody. And we illustrated it by pictures. And well, it was, they were fond of our proposition. Next one. Again, this was a situation. You see the upper level of the pedestrian area, so you could not enter the houses on the niveau where are the cars, but you had to, go up there and enter the house there. So it was completely separated, the functions. Next one. If you think that the people were happy when the houses were torn down, that's a big error. I noticed that many people were standing looking at these houses being torn down where they had spent their whole life, where they raised their family. And for me, this was very touching, because up to then I thought, well, it's really wonderful if they're being torn down. They were so ugly and nobody wanted to live there. But it's really always two sides to this story. Next slide. We worked together with the schools in this part of the town, and in arts, they painted pictures of how the children experienced this process. And I think this is one of the most wonderful pictures that a 12-year-old boy painted. Next one. This was the situation before tearing down the houses. On the left-hand side, the one straight ahead remained. And for us, it was very important to make clear, okay, if the houses are torn down, please try to keep the trees. And next slide. And we're happy that we almost, were successful. Of course, some didn't survive. And also for us, it was very important to make these areas not look like demolition areas, but make them look nice as soon as possible, so the image would get better of this area. Next one. And we documented that on in an exhibition where we documented that was the house that was there. This is the tearing down process. This is what it looked after the demolition, and how it will go on. So everybody was able to understand what happened to this area. Next one. And one of our ideas was to grow crops on these big fields. It was really big areas. And first everybody thought, oh my God, this is not going to work, because the people will walk all over, they will destroy it. And nobody dared to go through these fields, because they thought, okay, it's for agriculture, it's for nourishing the animals. And it blossomed wonderfully, and it was really a very good effect for the remaining houses and the people living there. Next. Afterwards, we just sawed grass, and it was made to hay in the late summer. Next one. You see, you have an impression about what the demolition areas looked like. In front, you have the one we worked on first, and across the street is the next area, and behind that is a playground we will talk about later. And also the corners of the big blocks were torn down already. Next one. Here you see harvesting the hay. We had these very big buildings that were almost empty. Looks great, doesn't it? Next one. Next. They even had wonderful structures on the lawn. Next one. And you can see by the pictures of the children that again they appreciated the new look of their area. They loved the hills, the little ones, and the green and the trees. For me, it was a very big compliment for our work. Next one. Yeah, here you see the situation: demolition on the one side, and in the back already the demolished new. Sorry, I'm back. The modernization of the remaining houses. Next one. Here is a view in one of the blocks before with the pedestrian bridge entering the houses, and afterwards it looked like this. Next one. So there was an architectural competition as well for the change of the buildings, and they decided it would be good to enter the houses on the ground floor, and they made this these sort of concierge buildings in front of the houses, and so everybody could enter the house just where everybody wants to go in. I think this before and after is very important. Next one. Yeah, here you can see the new situation. Many people asked if these are private dwellings now, which I think is a very good sign. No, it is still social dwellings at a payable rent, and this was really good. This aim was clear from the beginning. Next one. Here you see one of the concierge. They accept mail for you. They answer questions. Who can I find? Where can I find this family? Or they are very helpful. And of course, it is a wonderful social control in a positive sense. So there's always somebody watching. Here you see more pictures of the demolition going on, and now what it looks like now. When we asked the people living there, they want to have front gardens, like, you know, in a private house. So we found out we can do it in this way, and it is like having front gardens. And they appreciated it very much to have blooming flowers and well, just a normal environment. And we also plant hedges around the parking lots, so they're not so dominating. Next one. Well, this is the situation now, which looks quite normal. That was before. Yeah, we didn't change the structure, but we changed the image very much. That was before, and now it's just normal. You know, we had up on the top of the underground garages, we had courtyards, and this is what they looked like before. And of course, they had to stay because the houses around had to stay, and nobody wanted really to go there. And so we had to take it all off after the houses were modernized already. So everything was taken off, and we built a complete new structure on these underground garages. And our aim was to create a garden for everybody, and to have playgrounds for the little children and meeting points. And somebody said, "Oh, this looks like a botanical garden now." And yeah, before in the ground floor, they had tried to have private areas, but people would throw out things of the higher floors, and so they defended themselves with roofs and fences and everything. And we tried to implement new gardens. You have to watch the curtain. Backwards, please. If you see this curtain in in the living room. And next picture, you can see it's really still the same people living there. Next one. And they have now little gardens in front of their small apartments. Next one. And we did an initiative where we showed what can you plant in these little gardens, because most of the people were not used to gardening. And we bought the plants and planted them together with the people living there. And I think this was really a good idea. Next one. Now this is what the gardens look like now. And you can see they even grow tomatoes in little greenhouses, and they use it as a private little open space. And then nobody dares to throw anything from upstairs anymore. So you can even dry your my English is not so good today. Your laundry, right? Next one. Well, this is really a success that we now have flowers and plants where before there was really nothing, and only awful things. Next one. The gardening idea was so immense among the people that we talked to somebody who owned land, and he gave this land for an international garden. Next one. So the ones who didn't have a garden already close to their house, they could have this little allotment garden next to the part of town. Next one. And so they can grow their own salad and whatever they like. So I think this is now really a place where families like to live. They can meet, they have a safe area, the children can play, and it looks nice and is also relatively easy to maintain. Just to give you an impression about the children living there. Next one. Yeah, and the plants are still surviving and the people appreciate it very much. And of course it has to be taken care, but that works. We try to design every court. It is 3 big courtyards, and we decided that we tried to design them also with the same basic structure, but to give them a unique picture. So the playgrounds were designed differently. Here we have the boat, the sandpit. Apart from these blocks inside on the underground garage, it was very important to develop the main acts for the pedestrian and the bicycle way. You see this blue marked axe where all the public institutions are next to, like the schools, like the center and everything. And so this was the next important part we had to take care of. Next one. This is the plan about it. We tried to make it very open and wide and wonderfully controlled. Of course, we kept the trees, but to make it very like a park. Next one. This is what it looked like before, and you can imagine it was very dark. It was not socially controlled, and almost nobody liked to go there. This is part of the separation of the function of the urbanization through density, that you take apart, all functions, and you have a different path for pedestrian and bicycles. So from the structures it was okay, but it doesn't work. It didn't work. So we tore off all the bushes, make it visible, kept the trees, and now next pictures. Now you see it is really like a park going right through this part of town, and it is being used again. The students, pupils take it to go to school, and it's just a wonderful, safe area. Next one. Before we had the houses right next to it, and now we have space for playgrounds. And this, for example, is a wooden house, which is for children. They can, it is an open house. It's not a kindergarten. It's an open house where children can just go after school. They have a meal. They're being taken care of for people who work. And it's right here, and it's made of wood. And there was many people who said, oh my God, this is going to go up in flames. But it didn't. It didn't up to today. It is a very successful way of, changing this part of town. You see, we kept the tree. We kept the tree. Yeah, everything was torn down and the tree was kept, and you can see it on the next picture. The tree is still there. This is so important. I mean, people say, oh, it's not important, you can plant new trees, but keeping the trees is so important also for the people living there, and also ecologically. This is the situation of the children's house, open house. It is like paradise. And of course, we did this for the children. We have plenty of space now, and we used it to make it good for the children. Next one. They really love it. Yeah, so now it has become a very urban area with the space is very used, it is safe, and it looks nice. So here you have an overview. In the back is the school, the sports ground. On the right-hand side, a kindergarten, our little children's house. We have places for football, for everything. Now I come to the big playground, which was in the center of the area. And it was not planned at all to change this playground, because most people thought, well, it's a playground, it's okay. But for me, it looked so sad. And this was one of the first measurements we realized, that we said we will not put so much money in changing the roads. We rather would put the money into changing this playground, so to make it more attractive for families to live here. And you will see now some before and after pictures of the playground. It's a complete different situation now. And it, well, this is a normal playground, but it can be different. Next one. In the back is, by the way, one of the houses that was planned to be torn down as well, but the people living there resisted, and they said, this is one of the few buildings where we have 4-room apartments, and most of the houses had only 3-room apartments. So they said, it is completely all right to leave it, and we are satisfied with the low rent, and we want to stay there. And it was maintained. So this participation is so important in these areas, because it's the people that live there who have the knowledge about what is important and what not. Next one. Yeah, it's so good to design open space really for the people using them. You see the big houses in the back, backwards, please. You know, if you really have a close look in the back, there's still the high houses. So I'm not lying. It is really this playground that we changed in this way. And you see the parents like to come along. They meet on the playground. It's like a park. Next one. Also, we always installed tables and benches, so you can have a picnic, you can have a little family party, you can have a birthday party for the children, and if the benches and tables are already there, it's always being used, and yeah, that's wonderful. Next one. Yeah, this is a normal just to remind you what it looked like before, you can imagine that people did not like. Of course, there was also a playground for soccer, but it was mostly wet and not usable. And so we made artificial turf football or soccer area, which is really used for one of all ages. And the advantage is it might have rained just half an hour ago and you can play just as well. We also had table tennis. They were fond of, and they wanted to have a little, house where they could meet if it rains. It rains quite a lot in northern Germany, and so this was built together with the children. They had the possibility of marking the stones with their own signs, and that was a project we did together with artists and the schools. This was a wonderful method of creating more identification with the people, with this playground. Next one. Just some impressions. Well, this would be a video that as well of the youth. You can imagine, and also the girls were very fond of working so hard. You see. Well, this we did not translate, but we had a really good press and also managed to get money from the casino where you play for money, and they gave money for our playground. Next one. The entrance of the kindergarten, there was a bench for the grown-ups, but it really looked ugly. So we also made this look nicer. This was the center of Osterholz-Tenever. It was also very introverted and not really exciting. And if you see the next picture, you see that just changing the surrounding, the environment can make so much of a difference. Now it looks like a normal center, and if you even have flowers. So everyday life has changed completely. People are very much outside. They sit on the benches. We have a bench in every entrance of the building, and the problems that were they expected to have if there's a bench in the entrance of the house did not turn out to be true at all. The benches are used to meet the neighbors. Sorry if my phone rings, it interrupts the presentation. Just to have some impressions of how it looks like now. Very important is the situation at night. Not only during the day, it has to be good, sight everywhere, but in at night we need a good light to make it safe and people to feel well. Next one. Makes so much of a difference. One very important part is the participation. All the projects that we did were discussed in the form that everybody could come to these sessions, and we would present what we are trying to implement, and then everything was discussed, and it was really a very democratic process. And not only in closed rooms, but we walked through the part of town and demonstrated what is going to be changed one-to-one. And of course, for me, it was new to work in such an area, and I wanted to know, I never lived in a high house like that, and I wanted to know what especially young people needed in this area. And so I took part in a project with grade 8 in the school, and they showed me where they meet and in this area what is important, and they they made us plan a news environment of their schoolyard first, and also they had wonderful ideas about the public space. We collected many ideas, and they also made little models, and you can see this sort of next one was realized directly on the playground. So if children make the experience that they are really being respected, it is very important for their life. And ugly walls were filled with mosaics with the children together. So there's so much you can do to make people identify with their the part of town where they live. And also the elementary school, we had the project of designing their schoolyard, and we invited all the representatives of grade 1 to 4, and they could come into the teacher's room, next one, where they normally never are. It's only the teacher's room. And so they were very proud. They were the representatives of their school, of their grade, and they were able to plan with us the new schoolyard. Next one. Of course, the director was with us, and I also explained what as a whole we are doing in Tenever. And it was so wonderful to see this interested children. You know, there's so many prejudices about people living in areas like this, and it's completely nonsense. It's just normal people and families and children, and there's so much potential and so much passion. For me, this was a wonderful work. I was still a little younger then. This is the best thing you can do, work with children. And also there we walked outside and looked, how can we realize it? What can we do to make the schoolyard better? And the next one. Here you can see the plan. If you change the slide. Yeah, oh, stop. Please, the plan first. Oh, that's too quick. Here you can see the plan that turned out. For example, the children wanted to have gardens next to their classrooms. You see on the right-hand side, on the bottom, you can see soccer field with artificial grass. And well, so all ideas that we developed with the children, we tried to realize. Next one. We showed our plan before it was realized again to the same students, and they approved it to be good, and so it was built. Next picture. Next one. So here you see the artificial grass soccer field, also that one, and here the outside of the classrooms, we installed Treppen, next one. Here you can see already the stairs, and then in the next slide you see every classroom has a little garden and an apple tree. That was what they wished. And on the schoolyard they wanted to have water and sand to play with, and again we managed to realize that idea as well. Next one. Well, for us as the planners, it's very important to make good plans together with the ones who pay for it and with the people who live there. And also for us, it is very important to be on place when the planning is being realized. So it's very important for us to have a good atmosphere with the companies who do the realization. Next one. We always try to make visible the change of the year throughout the year. So we have these tulips in spring and changing plants all over the year. Next one. And flowers in the summer. Even lavender grows wonderfully in Bremen. Smells fantastic. And these flowers, Rudbeckia, blossom in harvest, and even during winter, we have a good look of these beds. And even with snow. You know, these Texas plants, for me, they are little skyscrapers in green. Next one. As I already said, we always plant hedges in front of the parking lot so the cars don't look like they're standing right in the middle of the park. Next one. Of course, we try to plant trees already in a rather big size, so they really make a difference. If possible, we use pre-raised lawn. It's already ready to be used. Next one. And of course, it's very important to organize the good caretaking of what we planned and realized. If the caretaking doesn't take place in a good way, then everything suffers and gets dirty and ugly again. So the maintenance is very important for the environment. Next one. Also take away the leaves and harvest in the autumn. Next one. So it always looks nice. We have we make a difference of what we mow regularly or let it grow. This is also a little contribution to the ecologic situation. And where the people walk, we mow. And as I said in the beginning, the image of Osterholz-Tenever was very bad. And most people that live in Bremen said they would never go there because they would be afraid. So publicity is very important. And we managed to make this project part of the Day of Architecture in Germany, where people can come and have a look themselves. And also the housing development apartment did an image campaign, and they had apartments that could be watched at. Again, we have a child's drawing showing that the high houses are not the problem at all, and they love the trees and the environment. And now you can see what the entrance looks now. We have really no problem with vandalism anymore. It is a wonderful new development. Here again, before, after tearing down, the bus stop is still the same, but the houses are gone. And as I said already, these areas are now filled with a new architecture. Next picture. There was a competition that was won by a bureau from Hamburg, and we now have the situation that we have houses for bigger families. As I said, it's normally in the houses were only 3 room apartments, and now we have bigger apartments. And well, as I said, we try to make it green for everyone, also for these women who are normally not allowed to leave home, as I really have to say clearly. But in these protected areas, they're allowed to go. And this is very important, so they can meet, go there with the children and have a good time, or a family meal just outside. Next one. Yeah, these girls I know from grade 8 where we met the project. I met them again, and they really dress up now when they go through town. And they tell me it's really turned out to be great. They even have their basketball ground that they wanted to have. And well, it's just a normal situation now for everybody. the outside area is the most best place to integrate different nations and nationalities. Here you can see on the slide on the way on this playground how all children play together and there's no problem. So important. And if you manage to make the people proud of their part of town, then you have won. Well, this is how it turned out. And it was really wonderful work almost for almost 20 years now. And it was one of my most favorite projects that I was allowed to do. And yeah, this is what we made of Tenever. Next one. The flowers were given to me from the children as a thank you for the playground. Next one. Yeah, thank you very much. I'd be pleased to answer any of your questions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for the lecture. Dear participant, please text question in English in the chat if you have question, of course. But I have question. You know, of course, this area has changed a lot, and of course, you use new approaches to design to projects. But I have question about has the regulatory framework also changed? Laws maybe not.
I did not quite understand your question.
My question about regulatory framework. Some laws about how you should a project, how you should do your work about as an architect, of course.
I don't know what you want to know from me. How I work?
Johanna, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Maria, could you help me understand what she wants to know? I really don't understand.
No, maybe it's a legal based regulatory system, because in Russia we have very often changing.
Like normatives, do you mean this? Like normative system?
Yes.
Okay, so in Russia we have a very strict legislation, and it's hard to do open space project also. Like there are so many rules what you can't do. Is it the same in Germany or it's more flexible there?
Yeah, no, of course we have plenty of rules. You wouldn't believe it's terrible. We're very bureaucratic. Well, but I always say this is the art of landscape architecture, that you can realize a good project. Nevertheless, you have to regard and respect all the rules, and of course you have to fight for the money for the projects. Many people are so ignorant, they don't see the necessity of investing in an environment, and this is also just as problematic as all the rules. But for me, it has always been, this is what it makes interesting, and to aim to fight for it, and that makes it really being alive. And when you see you manage to realize it anyhow, although there's so many rules and regulations, this is really something. And also, if it's being kept up and if it really works out, this is the most important thing, I think.
Also, I have a question about maintenance. there is a lot of open space in this large housing estate. And how do you plan the project in order to avoid the huge maintenance costs? Could you give some tips, probably, what should be done for such large housing estates to make it economically effective too?
That's my secret. No, no, it's of course the experience. I have been working for social dwellings and areas for more than 40 years now, and I know what works and what doesn't work, as well as for the use, as also for maintenance. It is always very important to have clear structures like lawn, hedges, trees, and not too complicated things. So everybody who looks at it knows, the lawn has to be mown, the hedge has to be cut, and the tree has to be left alone. So they have to, the environment has to talk to the people that do the maintenance. In most landscape architecture don't think about this point at all. And they are very disappointed to see that their creations don't survive because they're just too complicated. But also, even for this relatively simple way of creating landscape, you have also to make sure the maintenance is guaranteed. And in Germany, we already do it with the, when the work is done by a company, they are obliged to do the maintenance for at least 2 years, and then it's given to the regular maintenance. And of course, we are always accompanying these processes. And for example, here in Hannover, it's my task to accompany the maintenance of the outskirts of 5,800 apartments. And we walk through there every year to see how does it work, what has to be done. It is really a very, very important task. But much of this is really my secret.
And also, like, the choice of the plants, is it some specific strategies, not with details, but the specific common strategies for large housing estates, which plants the landscape architects should choose for such areas?
Yeah, of course, you should have in mind how they change over the year, how much maintenance they need, how they accept the climate, how they accept the concrete position. And also I try to plant like trees that are also green in the winter or plants, so they still have a structure. Like you saw in the front yard beds, there we have even a structure during winter. If there's not a structure at all anymore, you risk that people are running over because they don't see anything. Yeah, it's quite a few details you have to watch out for or to respect. Of course, in Irkutsk, your climate is completely different than you would have to look at complete different plants.
Yes. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, our time is up, and we should finish. Of course, it's more interesting to enter into discussion personally, face to face. But unfortunately, only online we can speak with you about your project. This is very cool project. I hope for our participants it was very interesting information. And Johanna, thank you so much.
Welcome. And sorry for my bad English.
English was
it's everything understand. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
but we can stay a bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops.